What if I told you that in less than 2 months, someone went from depressed, stuck in their hometown for 5 years, working a job they hated, surrounded by the same people every single day, to living in their dream city in an amazing apartment, working the exact job they wanted, higher pay, hybrid schedule, and all simply by shifting how they used their imagination? And no, this isn't another. I scripted 55 by 5, and the universe delivered story. This is a real success story I'm sharing with you today, from someone who was frustrated, who quit, who thought none of Neville's teachings worked, until one realization changed everything. Welcome back to Real Life Manifestations, where we share real success stories, real shifts, and real results using Neville Goddard's teachings. If you love hearing how ordinary people completely transform their lives by changing their inner world, make sure you're subscribed. Now let's get into this, because this one is powerful. The person whose story I'm sharing today had been a long-time follower of Neville. For years, tried the techniques, followed the advice. They were even deep into law of attraction before that, and believed they had manifested things through law of attraction, but later realized it was actually Neville's principles at work. But here's the thing. None of the methods seemed to work for them. They tried everything, stayed akin to sleep, sticking to one single scene, mental diets, writing affirmations 33 times a day, gratitude journals every single day, listening to manifestation tapes on YouTube while asleep to impress the subconscious. You name it, they did it. And they saw zero improvement. Meanwhile, their external life felt suffocating. They had been depressed and stuck in their hometown for 5 years. 5 years working a job they hated. 5 years around the same people, same environment, same routine, longing for change but feeling trapped because their job situation made it impossible to leave. Eventually, they got so frustrated that they unfollowed the Neville community entirely and quit the whole thing for about a year. They were done. Until September 2022. They randomly decided to refollow the community, not because they were hopeful, not because they believed again, but because they felt like they had nothing to lose. And then they came across a post on the internet that changed everything. The core idea hit them like lightning. It basically said, you should not manifest with the goal of getting it in the 3D. The only goal should be to have it in your imagination. That was it. That was the click. Because up until that moment, their understanding of manifestation looked like this. Visualize and affirm, get the desire in the 3D, finally be happy in the 3D. But the post reframed it entirely. Visualize, experience the desire fully in imagination, be happy in imagination, and the 3D appearing is just a byproduct, a cherry on top. That shift changed everything. For the first time, they thought, okay, I can do that. If I want a new place, all I have to do is close my eyes and experience it. If I want a relationship, all I have to do is imagine and feel it. No pressure, no chasing, no waiting, just experience it internally. And it felt easy. Almost too easy. They realized something huge. We are never actually chasing physical things. Not the house, not the relationship, not the job. Because if you received your desire with zero feelings attached to it, would it mean anything? If someone handed you your dream house, but you felt nothing, no joy, no pride, no excitement, would it even matter? Of course not. What we truly want is the feeling, who we are when we have it, the identity, the inner state. You don't want the relationship. You want to feel loved, chosen, secure. You don't want the job. You want to feel valued, accomplished, free. You don't want the city. You want to feel alive, expanded, new. And here's the breakthrough they had. I can generate those feelings myself. I am the source. Once that clicked, the 3D started losing its emotional power because they realized they were never chasing anything tangible. They were chasing states, and states are generated within. They began visualizing during the day, not as a technique, not as work, not as a chore they had to do correctly. It became their refuge. And this part is important. Some days the 3D was overwhelming. It felt heavy. It felt like too much. They needed change to happen. They didn't just want to have fun imagining. They were tired of their reality. So instead of fighting the 3D, they treated their inner world as a safe space. A place nobody else could touch. A place where they chose what happened. A place where the outer world did not exist. They accepted imagination as more real than the 3D. The 3D became just a byproduct, an echo of past assumptions, a mirror reflecting old states. Whenever something triggered them, they would tell themselves, "This is just the past. This is a product of my previous inner world. I'm literally living in old assumptions. Imagination is present. The 3D is delayed." Another idea that helped them was imagining the 3D like a movie they had already seen. If you already know the ending of a movie, why would you panic during the middle scenes? Why get triggered when you already know how it ends? Just sit back and watch it. That mental shift made it easier to detach emotionally from current circumstances. They stopped reacting so heavily because they understood. This is just the old story playing out. They also broke a lot of rules people swear by. They didn't stick to just one scene. They didn't force the state akin to sleep because every time they tried, they fell asleep or had disturbing dreams, so they stopped doing it. They didn't do a strict mental diet. They didn't obsess over repeating one affirmation. They simply understood that techniques do not manifest. Techniques are not magic. They can help focus you, but they are not the operating power. You are. That was the missing piece before. All those months and years, they were looking outside themselves, to the universe, to God, to some external force, to the perfect technique. But once they accepted that their imagination was the only creative power, that they were the operant power, everything shifted. And here's the wild part. In under 2 months, they moved to the exact city they had been dreaming about. Not a random place, the exact city. They got an amazing apartment. They landed the exact job they wanted, higher pay and hybrid schedule. After 5 years of feeling stuck. 2 months. And by the time these things showed up physically, they almost didn't even feel desperate for them anymore. Because they had already given themselves the experience internally. The 3D became the cherry on top. They emphasized something crucial. Once you truly accept your inner world as more real than the outer world, the outer world has no choice but to conform. And when you stop chasing, when you stop trying to force techniques to work, when imagination becomes a refuge instead of a task, it stops feeling like effort. It becomes natural. It becomes comforting. It becomes empowering. They even said that one of the keys to their success was genuinely having fun with their visualizations. Playing, exploring, experiencing, not rigidly controlling every detail. They chose to identify with the inner version of themselves, the person who already had it, instead of falling back into old habits of identifying with the stuck version. And the 3D responded. This is such a powerful reminder for anyone watching who feels frustrated or exhausted from trying every method under the sun. You don't need 100 techniques. You don't need to write affirmations 33 times a day. You don't need to listen to subliminals all night. You don't need to force state skin to sleep if it doesn't feel natural. You need understanding. You need to accept that your imagination is the true reality, and the 3D is a delayed reflection. The second you accept that you are the operating power, everything changes. And that's exactly what happened here. Now, before we close this success story, let's talk about the real lessons you can take from it. Because this isn't just a feel-good story. There are powerful principles here that you can actually apply in your own life. First lesson, stop manifesting for the 3D. The biggest shift in this story happened when they stopped trying to get something out here and started experiencing it fully in here. The goal was no longer, let me visualize so it shows up. The goal became, let me experience it in my imagination because that's the real reality. When you stop using imagination as a tool to manipulate the 3D and start using it as the fulfillment itself, everything changes. Second lesson, you don't actually want the thing, you want the feeling. You don't want the house. You want the security, pride, and comfort. You don't want the relationship. You want love, validation, connection. You don't want the job. You want freedom, money, confidence. And here's the powerful part. Feelings are self-generated. Once you realize you are the source of the feeling, you stop chasing objects and start embodying states. Third lesson, the 3D is the past. Whenever they felt triggered, they reminded themselves, this is old. This is a reflection of my previous assumptions. That mindset alone removes emotional attachment to what you're currently seeing. You're not reacting to reality anymore. You're watching an echo. Fourth lesson, imagination can be your refuge. For them, imagination wasn't work. It wasn't discipline. It wasn't a strict routine. It was safety. It was relief. It was a space where they had full control. If your visualizations feel forced, you're doing it from pressure. But when imagination becomes your safe place, it naturally becomes powerful. Fifth lesson, techniques don't manifest, you do. They tried everything, stayed akin to sleep, affirmations, journaling, subliminals, and nothing changed. The change happened when understanding changed. Techniques are tools, they are not magic spells. You are the operant power. The moment they stopped looking outside themselves, to the universe, to God, to methods, and accepted that imagination is the creative force, their outer world shifted quickly. Sixth lesson, identify with the inner version of yourself. The 3D responds to who you believe you are. They stopped identifying as the depressed, stuck version. They started identifying as the person who already lived in that city, already had that job, already felt that freedom. And reality conformed to that identity. That's the real formula, hidden inside this story. Not effort, not repetition, not perfection. Understanding, identity, state, and embodiment. If you truly apply these lessons, not just intellectually, but internally, you will start to see why this person's life shifted in under 2 months after being stuck for 5 years. This story isn't about luck. It's about alignment with the inner world. And that's something every single one of you can practice starting today. If this success story resonated with you, take a moment and really reflect on what shifted here. It wasn't the technique. It wasn't luck. It was understanding who the real operating power is. You. If you enjoy hearing real transformation stories like this, make sure you like this video and subscribe to Real Life Manifestations so you don't miss the next one. And if you wish to share your own success story with us, you can do so by filling out the Google form linked in the description. Your story could be the one that inspires someone else to finally shift and transform their life. Remember, your imagination is not fake. It is the creative power. I'll see you in the next success story on Real Life Manifestations.